You got one life, for crying out loud. You might as well just give it all you got.
The Deej, Dan Jordan.
Your daily dose of reality. Your daily dose of the Deej.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I need my daily dose of the Deej.
I make the news. I don't watch the news. I'm a leader.
The Sales Energizer, Dan Jordan.
Listen, don't worry how to sell, baby. Worry about why people buy. And it's fun.
You don't need a 5-hour energy. All you need is the Sales Energizer.
Just when I think it's not going to be as fun as the one before, each one gets successfully better. What's the word I'm looking for? What's it going to take to get you into this car today, huh?
And now, please welcome the Sales Energizer, Dan Jordan.
Boom!
That's exactly it. Do that. Let's do that.
Dan, your mic's muted. There.
There you go. You know, I thank goodness I have a producer to tell me that my mic's off. You know, that happens. I know you've been waiting all week for this particular issue of the Sales Energizer show for our guest, but I got to tell you, I have I heard something this week which I thought was so good, and I think it's apropos for this guest that we have today. You know, it's just a story of like 3 carpenters, and they're building this church or what have you. And so that they asked, for you salespeople out there, you know, how do you describe yourself? So they asked the first carpenter, what do you do? He says, I'm a carpenter. You see, that guy has a job. And they asked the second guy, they said, what do you do? He goes, I build cathedrals. See, that guy has something more. He has a career there. But there's a third one that people don't go. And that is, they asked the third guy, you know, what do you do? And he goes, I'm building a way to get closer to God. That guy has a purpose. That guy has passion to wake up every morning. And when I'm training people, I'm coaching people in terms of sales and prospecting, that's it. You wake up every morning with the purpose. If you're not growing, you're shrinking. If you're not climbing, you're sliding. There's no in between. And so when you're out there, when you wake up, you got to have that reason to go. And this morning when I woke up, I thought to myself, I have a chance to meet somebody who I've been secretly admiring for years. I somehow got on an email list, and I get this email from this person who speaks about negotiation in terms that I can understand, that just works. And I've kind of put him on a pedestal, so it was nerve-wracking getting in touch with him to try to see if he would actually come on my show. And he is, because there's a new book that he put out that we're going to share with everybody. And so I want to give everybody a chance here to meet somebody that can truly give purpose and better your life. So please, without any further ado, let me introduce my new friend, Ed Brodow. Now, how's that for a world-class intro, Ed?
I love it. Thank you.
Okay. That's where you go. I really do. I knew you, as a guy who I would just somehow I got on your email list.
You asked to be on it because of Gittimer.
Yes, so you remember that's how I met you. I was actually with Jeffrey Gittimer, and he was reading something on his computer, on his phone or something, and he was like kind of chuckling. And he goes, I go, what's going on? He goes, this guy, Ed Brodow. And he goes, whatever. And so when I started reading your stuff, and I'm like, man, I need to know this guy. So are you friends with him? Were you on the circuit with him?
Yeah, we're good friends, Jeffrey. We've known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
I love Jeff.
Old days. Have you visited him there? He's not in Charlotte anymore, is he?
He's not?
No, I think they moved to South Carolina or something like that.
Really?
But yeah.
I didn't know that.
Look at you. Now, I generally, when you send me emails, every once in a while there's, pictures of some European vacation or things like that. Are those vacations, or are those, gigs that you're on?
Both. I've done a lot of gigs overseas. I've been all over the place. I've been everywhere, Bangkok, Nairobi, Paris, everywhere speaking. I
Really?
love to travel a lot just for fun. I love to travel. I love to go
You
places, and that's one of my passions.
That's right. You come off. You're one of those people that I guess I'm attracted to these. You're one of those people who have like a gruff exterior. You're very direct with everything, but you can tell just by the way you speak, you're just a teddy bear when it comes down to it. And
I
now,
don't know why people think I'm gruff. I don't know. Even my girlfriend says, that people are afraid of you. I
yeah,
am a teddy bear.
I know. Yeah, it comes out. You just got to know that you do that. You tell a story about negotiation. I guess on one of your videos, which is really great, about a guy who robbed was robbing a store or something. Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, why don't you tell that story?
Yeah. Well, I saw that in the newspaper. Yeah. A guy walks into it happened in Delray Beach, Florida. And I was drawn to it because I used to live in Delray Beach. Well, guy walks into a sandwich shop and orders a meatball sandwich. And the owner starts to fix the meatball sandwich when the customer pulls out a gun. And he says, "This is a stick up. Give me all the cash in the register." Now, most of us would give him the cash, right? I would do that.
Yeah.
Well, the owner of the store didn't do that. He looked at the gunman and he said, "Hey, listen, pal, we've had a really bad month." He said, would you settle for $10 in the meatball sandwich? And the gunman says, "What are you, out of your mind?" He says, "I have a gun here. I'm not settling for $10 in the meatball sandwich." He says, "I'm not settling for anything less than $20 in the meatball sandwich." The owner says, "You got a deal." He gives him the $20, gives him the meatball sandwich, and what it said in the newspaper was, "The robber left satisfied."
Isn't that great?
So,
And so in negotiation, I guess, why don't people do it more? I mean, because
they're afraid of it. They're afraid of confrontation. People are averse to confrontation.
got it. And you're not.
No.
Okay. Well, there's your answer about the gruff exterior.
There
Huh,
it
John?
is.
You're disagreeable.
No, I just call it the way I see it. I tell the truth. And sometimes the truth can be difficult for people to accept.
Yeah, and so
I
especially when it's not when it's unprovoked. I mean, it's nothing. I don't know if you found this, but there's nothing worse than giving somebody unsolicited advice.
Yeah. No, I had somebody call me up yesterday. She wanted to do some company that we're going to do something for my new book, and she's giving me the spiel, and she says, "I'm gonna give you 2 hours to think about it." I said, "Oh, that's really nice of you. You're going to give me 2 hours. That makes my day." I said, and I hung up. That was. So I'm very direct. But I believe in confrontation because I believe in communication, and I think that one of the problems that people face in their lives is they don't communicate and they don't respect each other and they don't listen to each other. And that's what I teach when I talk about negotiation. I tell people to listen to each other and communicate.
Yeah, that's very Jordan Peterson-esque.
Love the guy, Jordan Peterson, one of my heroes.
Yes, he's so well spoken and at a level that intimidates me.
I'm having breakfast with him tomorrow.
Get out of town. Tell him that the Deej says hi.
I made that up.
Oh, okay, good.
I thought it would impress you.
It did. That's it. He was gonna be on the show next if you did that.
Okay.
But that's else. So, but that
I might say yes.
So your directness and I think your courage and your ability to be disagreeable while still being a teddy bear has led you into more controversial topics and books. When you listen, anytime you step into politics, it's going to be controversial to someone. First, I want to get into why and how, but I want to ask you this question for those of us who have different beliefs, but maybe are avoiding making them public for fear of it have an effect on our careers. So what has jumping into that political fray had an effect on your career deleteriously?
Well, let me explain how this all happened.
Please.
I've been speaking on negotiation for about 36, 37 years. And something really weird happened in the last 10 years. People found out that I wasn't voting for Obama, and they called me a racist. So for the first time in my life, I really got interested in politics. I was never interested in politics. And as I began to delve into politics, I got really passionate about it. And I started writing books, and I became a political commentator. So now I have two careers going on. I'm a negotiation expert, and I'm also a political commentator and an author. Why not? Why does one have to have just one career? I have three. I'm a speaker on negotiation. I'm a political commentator, and I'm an author. There's three careers going at the same time.
Has one career affected the other, and vice versa?
It's hard to say. It's hard to say. And frankly, I don't really think about it. I just do what my gut tells me to do. And right now, I'm very passionate about the political situation in our country. And I've written about 250 articles in the last 5 years, all of which have been published. I have 10 books out. 5 of them are on politics. And there's no stopping. It just keeps going. Where it will go, I don't. Where I'm going to be in 10 years, who knows? But I've always, that's been a pattern in my life. I always reinvent myself. I started out, I went to law school, and I hated law school. And the next thing I knew, it was Vietnam. I wound up in the Marine Corps. I was a lieutenant. I get out of the Marines. I go into sales, and I became a sales manager. I worked for IBM and Litton Industries. I got tired of that. Then I became an actor. I went to Hollywood, and I was an actor for 12 years and did pretty damn well as an actor. And after a while, my attitude toward that began to change, and I became a motivational speaker and a negotiation expert. So it's a rolling stone,
It's called living.
Yeah, living.
Yeah, that's great. So, are you married to the same woman? Oh no, you said you have a girlfriend.
We just celebrated our 14th anniversary last week, but we're not married.
When are you getting married?
But don't tell anybody we're not married. A lot of people think we're married, but we're not.
Yeah, well, of all the people, yeah, I won't tell anyone. You wouldn't believe how many people ask on a regular basis about you and whether or not you're married.
Really? Can I get names and phone numbers, please?
Yeah, the whole thing. Well, okay, so I want to get to the book, but you just sparked another question, so I have to go there first. So with all these different things, a couple of things that you've done, people will give their left arm to be able to have done that. So you started with just getting 250 articles, all of them published. How did you do that for people who want to get out there with notoriety? How are you getting these published articles?
I have a press agent. I have a reputation. I don't know. People recommend me. Things just happen to me. I don't know. I just sit here and things happen.
Well, you don't just sit there. You take action. You wrote the articles prior. It didn't just happen. You have to at least create the content. How about the acting thing? How the heck did you tell me some funny acting stories?
Corporate world, and I got bored. Frankly, I got really bored. And one day I said to myself, "Hey, what if you had 6 months to live? What if the doctor said, Ed, you have 6 months to live? What would I want to do?" And I thought, I don't want to be in the corporate world anymore. So I thought, okay, what would you like to do? And it took me about 6 months to come up with I always thought it would be fun to be an actor. I always loved going to the movies. So I went down to Greenwich Village. I was in New York, and I signed up with the Strasbergs, Lee Strasberg. I signed up for an acting class. And one thing led to another. And a year later, I was a lead in a movie, and I was in South America. So
holy crap!
I didn't take the attitude. Oh, I could never do that. I just thought, hey, I'd like to do that. Let me find out. How do you become an actor? Well, you go to school. So I went to an acting school. I made contacts. I learned things, and the next thing I knew, I got an agent, and then I got the movie, and then then I went to Hollywood. I mean, it all it just came about by being proactive, I guess.
That is just dynamite. So, did you negotiate your own deals?
Occasionally, I did, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
it was one deal. I did a live show, and I negotiated not only for myself but for the whole cast, and I got everybody's salary doubled. It was, so yeah.
Well, so how did you do that? Give a little
I
negotiation lesson here.
You're not paying us enough. You know,
Okay, and so where does it go there? So you're not paying us enough,
yeah.
and then I'm sure you don't remember the whole thing, but let's say you were coaching me, and I'm doing a show, and I don't think I'm getting paid enough. How would you coach me to go ahead and get that, to up my salary? Or there's a
Well,
lot of people who need to do that.
it's a very simple thing.
Hmm.
It's called negotiation consciousness. That's a term I invented. And negotiation consciousness means that you have to be assertive and you have to ask for what you want. Don't be afraid to ask for what you want.
Mm.
You want, it's not going to happen by accident. If you want something, you have to ask for it. Now, what's the worst thing that can happen? They'll say no.
Yeah, that it's so basic. So I tell people that there's no downside to asking for too much, but what's your position on that? Let's say,
Well,
go ahead.
there's a point where in negotiation, there's a point where you want to put it out there, but you don't want to be ridiculous. And I say that no position is ridiculous if you can come up with some good reasons in support of it. So
Give me give me an
if you
example.
ask me for more money, you've
Yes.
got to give me some good reasons for that. If you don't, I'm going to say that's ridiculous. Don't bother me. But if you can give me some good reasons that will justify me paying you more, there's a good chance I'll accept it.
So if you come prepared with that, so you need to be prepared when you ask for something, you need to be prepared for someone to say, "Well, why should I give you that?"
Of course. Yeah, I have a great article on my website about how to get ask for a raise or how to negotiate your salary. I have a 12-step program for how to get a raise or how to and certain mistakes people make. I think the biggest mistake is they say, I have a wife and 6 kids and I need more money. Well, who cares? You have to show how you are of value to your employer and why it would behoove your employer to give you more money to keep you. That's the way you want to go with it.
Yeah, that's a very introspective look, because many times when you do that and you say, I want more money, and then you say, why, and you look into it, you're really not worth more money. Like you could come to that realization that this position that I'm in right now, it kind of caps off. You can get anybody to do it.
Well, I tell people that you have to understand that if they are not willing to treat you the way you want to be treated, then maybe you're in the wrong place.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're in the wrong place, get the hell out of there. Do something else. Go find another job.
You're like old school wisdom. Hey, doctor, it hurts when I do this.
I don't buy that. I've heard that said. Yeah, he's old school. That's a lot of crap. It's just wisdom.
Yes.
It's common sense. If you're in a bad place, change it.
There you go. Yeah, that's like the doctor. You go to play doctor. It hurts when I do this. Don't do that.
I see you, Gittimer, and I have the same sense of humor.
Yeah. Yes. It's the same thing. All right, let's talk about book. You got a brass set of balls to go ahead and put a book entitled "War on the Whites."
Yeah.
So
a lot of people said, "Don't do that, Ed. They're going to come after you." Even my girlfriend said, "They're going to, you've got to be careful." But there again, I'm outspoken. It's something I believe in. I've been noticing for a number of years now that white people are being trashed right and left, and I've been following it. I've been studying it, and finally, I said I got to write a book about this because nobody has.
well,
Mine's the first book that really addresses this and says, "Hey, there's an inquisition against white people in this country."
okay. So I'm
People are
I'm
saying we're glad
I'm of that
somebody
white.
finally said something about it.
Yeah. No, so I am of that persuasion, and I don't. Where would I see this war against me?
Where?
Yeah,
Well, here's an example. You have any kids?
I got 2 kids, one good one, but I got 2.
Well,
No, I'm
kids
just
today
kidding.
in schools around the country are being told that if they're white, they're told that they're flawed, that there's something wrong with you if you're white, that you have advantages that you don't deserve, and you need to apologize for your skin color. That's one way. Another thing that's happening, all the companies and government agencies are all instituting these diversity trainings. And the diversity trainings, basically, all of them say the same thing. If you're white, no good. You have to undo your whiteness. They actually say that. Undo your whiteness.
Well, how do you do that?
Yeah, well, I asked that in my book. How are you supposed to undo your whiteness? It's insane.
Well, are they talking about? And I love. We're from the same, I guess, time period. I was brought up to see things as colorblind. Like that was it. You feel about the content of the character, not the color.
Right.
So and really, that's how I am. I could see past your gruff exterior, and I see past everybody's exterior. I see their heart. That's where it's just a thing of mine. And so this is totally foreign to me. So when you say, I forgot my train of thought, but I guess, is there a point that you don't feel attacked? Like, 'cause when you say there's a war, I'm thinking you have to fight back. There is no,
Yeah, you do.
but there is no, I mean, what do you fight back? Someone says, someone calls me a racist.
I'll give you an example.
Yeah, well, okay, go ahead.
There's a book out there called White Fragility. And I read this damn book from cover to cover. It's the worst book I ever read in my life. And all it does is say, if you're white, you stink. And you have to admit it. That's what the book is. Well, companies are forcing the people to read this garbage. And people read it because they're intimidated. People are easily intimidated. When I was in the corporate world, I was never intimidated. So what I tell people, if somebody says to you, you have to undo your whiteness. If somebody were to say that to me, I would say, drop dead. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, but isn't that's it? So there's nothing institutional. So I would say the same thing. I go suck eggs. Someone calls me a racist. I'm like, I disagree with you. I don't care.
You can't allow it. If you don't say something, your silence is consent. You have to push back against it.
Well, but you could say, like I said, I wouldn't apologize for it, of course, but I'm like, you know what? That carries no merit with me. I don't know how to fight back. So how do you fight back? Why don't I just ask that question? How do you fight back?
Well, I just told you, you refuse to accept this ridiculous idea,
right?
That you're flawed if you're white. I mean,
right? Yeah. So it's not. You're not.
People don't want to do that. They're afraid I'll lose my job. So get another job.
That's right. So you're not advocating to take action against those who are calling you that.
What do you mean?
You're just saying I don't accept it, and I'll get my own. I'll make my own school.
What do you mean by action?
Well, when you say a war, it kind of intonates some form of violence. You're not advocating for any of that.
Well, it's ideological violence.
Okay.
And the war is against white people. I didn't say white people are waging war against anybody else. The war is being waged against white. I call it an inquisition, like the Spanish Inquisition.
Right, but so you okay?
Right.
I'm with you. We'll talk about examples, but I'm just thinking for myself, if someone wages war against me, my side, my family, my first option is to fight back. My first thought is, how do I fight back? But there's really no fight back. There's just to defend yourself.
That's it. Self-defense.
Okay.
Self-defense, which, by the way, is under attack in this country right now.
Self-defense is under attack?
Under attack. Yeah, I've written about that in a couple of my books, Tyranny of the Minority and America on Its Knees. I've talked about how if you try to use self-defense in a court today, there's a good chance they're going to going to disallow it. It's look at this case in New York with Neely, Jordan Neely, the guy on the subway that was terrorizing everybody, and Daniel Penny got him in a chokehold, and they're saying that he's saying it was self-defense. I was defending the people, myself and the other people on the subway from this crazy bastard, and they're saying no, you can't use that as an excuse, which is ridiculous.
Is it your contention that if Daniel Neely was not white, this would be a different story? Of course, you can't know for
if Penny was not white. If it was reversed, if the guy doing all the screaming and yelling was white, and a black man got him in a chokehold, we never would hear about it.
Really, and that's the contention. So,
no doubt about that. That is, to me, that's just clear. And I talk about that a lot in my book. That when there is a conflict. In fact, I just wrote an article. I've just submitted an article.
You see, we're on the same telepathic waves. That's how it works.
When you have a confrontation between a black person and a white person, the assumption today is that the white person is to blame. And that is sick. That's really sick. That's racism against white people.
Well, so I remember going when the kids and we wound up sending our children to private school, much because I wanted to stay married, and that was my wife's choice to do that. And so I remember just talking with kids, and boys and girls are a little different with the way they develop differently. Girls generally have better handwriting and stuff, but in terms of their attitude and their actions, I remember even then thinking that they treat the boys like they're dysfunctional girls. They treat them, because the girls generally act better, and so they want the boys to be that. Are you saying that they're doing that, treating people differently, not just because of the sexes, but just because of the shade of their skin?
Yes, I'm saying that exactly. And that's going on all in schools all over the country. And I talk about it in my book. I give examples where the kids are told you're flawed if you're white and you need to apologize. 5-year-old kid in New York, some 5-year-old kid came home and said, crying, saying, "Mommy, I'm a bad person. I'm white." That is a tragedy.
Gosh, why do they go to that school? I mean, that's actually
you said it. Why don't the parents do something about it? I blame the parents for this. If my kid was in a situation like that, I would pull my kid out of there so fast you wouldn't believe it.
Yeah, I don't know that it serves anyone. So, do you speak about this stuff as well, or do you have any policy ideas that can change this?
Well, the whole system has to be. It's this whole woke thing. Which is
woke. Explain what woke is to you, because it means a lot of different things to different people.
Woke to me is an assault on conservative values and on white people. That's what woke is. Woke is that we have to have equity instead of equality. You talk about Martin Luther King, judge people by the quality of their character, not by the color of their skin. That's equality. But they don't want that. Now, the woke crowd wants equity. Biden wants equity, which means everybody has to have the same outcome. You and I have to have the same salary, the same house, the same neighborhood, which is crazy. You can't do that. It's impossible. Biden has this new executive order in the federal government, equity, which means that when you're hiring in the federal government, you're not supposed to hire white people anymore.
What?
We have to bring back because black people have been traditionally mistreated. So we have to turn the tables around and give them special treatment. And you only hire people of color. Can't hire white people. That's what it really amounts to.
So, but that's just so it's basically affirmative action for the corporate world.
Affirmative action on steroids. For the government, for the corporate world, for everything.
And are they? I apologize because I've been, following the dictates that to lead a happy life. One of them is no news. So I don't know what the heck is going on, but so this may be pervasive or not. But and I've not been in the corporate world nearly forever. So is it that overt that they can actually say? I used to have a staffing company, and they would, sometimes they wanted women instead of men because women are better, more dexterous with their hands, on the line or something like that. And they can go for longer periods without breaks statistically. And so, but they couldn't ask, we want more women or such.
Habits now.
Yes. So they would say, get us some people with small hands. To get some people with small hands. But are they that overt with it now?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Don't hire.
Absolutely. Read what's going on with these diversity executives. Did you read what happened at Stanford with that diversity executive?
Tell me.
They had a judge. They invited a judge at Stanford Law School, one of the top law schools in the country. They invited a federal judge, and the students didn't like him because of one of his rulings. And the diversity executive, they have a diversity executive at Stanford Law School. She gave a lecture to a Court of Appeals judge, telling him what a son of a bitch he was and how crazy and stupid he was, and would not let him speak. So here's a diversity executive who does not believe in diversity of thought.
So what? I guess in your book, this is kind of blowing me away with this. What do you say to the person who says, listen, there's a systemic racism against blacks in this country right now, and it's been going on for years. And if there are certain instances that things are reversed, well, that's just the comeuppance.
Okay, good question. I have a whole chapter on that. And the benefit of the book, by the way, is that if you get that situation, somebody says that to you, my book will give you the ammunition to defend against that. And what I show in the book is that there is no such thing as systemic racism in the United States at the present time. And just so, in case you don't want to take my word for it, I have the words of leading Black thinkers such as Thomas Sowell, Shelby Steele, Bob Woodson. They all say the same thing. Maybe 60 years ago, before the Civil Rights Bill was passed, but not today. To say that there is systemic racism is a myth created by the Democratic Party to divide the country. They want to divide the country by race and gender so they can they think they can pick off the minority groups and get them to vote for them if they can convince them that they're being oppressed by white people.
Oh, and that is, by your definition, that is the war.
That's a war. You're damn right. Of course it's a war. You're telling people that the country is a racist country. You're telling President Biden went to the commencement address at Howard University, which is a Black university, and he said the biggest problem you're going to have in your life is white supremacy. Now, here's a guy who says, I'm going to unite the country. And what he has just done is divided the country. He's telling Black people, watch out for white people. White people are evil. White supremacy, they're going to get you. They're going to stop you from doing the things you want to do. Now, Shelby Steele, who's a Black man, says that's a lot of crap. He says Black people can do anything they want in this country. You can be a business executive. You can be a movie star. You can be a doctor. And instead of having racial barriers, you're probably going to be given advantages because of your skin color if you're Black. So I refute the whole business about white supremacy, white privilege, systemic racism. I refute all of that in my book.
And again, the book is, what's the name of the book again?
The book is The War on Whites.
Okay.
How hating white people became the new national sport.
Okay. I read books, but I'd love to hear, do you have point by point how to refute those things? But how do you bring people together? How do we both win that? How does everybody win that war?
One person at a time. One person at a time. You can't really, one of the things I teach when I talk about negotiation is you can't really be responsible for what other people think and do. You can only be responsible for what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, it's you have to say, this is what I believe. I am not going to take abuse. I am not going to have somebody tell me to undo my whiteness. I am not going to be told that there's something wrong with the white race because we have systemic racism. I'm not going to accept that, and I'm going to call it a lie whenever I can.
So, what's it that I heard years ago about white privilege? What do you say to that? Well, listen, your opinion is a little less worthy, Ed Brodow, because you're white. Of course, you're going to say that.
Well, that's total crap. First of all, I talk about black privilege. Maybe they used 60 years ago, 100 years ago, there was white privilege. Today, there's black privilege. Blacks have privileges all across the board.
Give me an example.
I have examples where blacks are given a free pass after committing a violent crime. They're given a free pass because they're black. Courts are afraid to convict black people. Black people have affirmative action. Black people have special courses in college. All kinds of advantages that black people have today. I call it black privilege.
To get them.
By the way,
yes,
I'm not people say, oh, he's a racist. I'm not a racist. I have nothing against black people. I like black people. I grew up in a neighborhood with black people. I don't dislike them. In fact, what I'm trying to do is help black people. And I show in my book how the war on whites actually hurts black people as well as white people.
Yes. I noticed that I was brought up with a family that there was no limitations to me. You could be whatever you want. You could do whatever you want if you work hard enough. And I remember back then growing up, I used to hear that African Americans, as we used to call them back then, there was a couple people in my school, and their parents would tell them, for you to succeed in this country, you need to work 3 times as hard as a white guy. And I remember kind of being jealous because these guys worked their tails off, and every one of them very successful. But I wish I was given that. I wish I was given that. For you to succeed, you just need to work harder than that guy. And I think that's everybody from America, but that changed. As soon as you have a victim mentality, it's problematic. You kind of live up to that victimhood.
You asked me what is woke. Define what. One of the things that the woke people say is you're not allowed to say that anymore. If you say to be successful, you have to work hard. That's racist. They tell us. That's right. Can you believe that? That somebody would say, if you work hard and make something of yourself, that's a racist concept.
So now they're calling my parents racist.
Yes, essentially, that's right.
Okay, and so we just disagree with that. I don't accept that. I refute that. And that's my charge. That's what I need to do.
Recognize the problem. And most people, they think it, but they don't say it out loud. And that's the value of my book, because it's all out loud. It's right there in your face in my book. And you can't brush it under the rug anymore. We have a problem. And if white people as a group we have to defend ourselves against this racism. It is racism. People call it reverse racism. That's not true. It's racism. And one of the things I say in my book is that discrimination and racism against white people is just as bad as discrimination against blacks or Hispanics or anybody else.
Yeah. So if your goal is to end racism, you don't get there by being more racist than the other guy. You don't get there by just transferring your racism towards something else.
There's another famous book called How to Be an Anti-Racist by Kendi, some crazy black guy, who says that the only way to deal with past discrimination is to have present discrimination.
Oh, you see, that's the opposite of what I just said.
Yes, it's crazy.
Yeah.
You don't end racism by having more racism, and that's what this nut job is telling us to do.
Yeah. So that's like
And
ending.
they're buying this book like crazy. They think it's wonderful. All these liberal whites are saying, "Oh, that's wonderful. That's really great."
Okay. Yeah. So that's like to end alcoholism by drinking some more.
Yes, exactly.
Well, that's awesome. So where are you living now?
I'm in Monterey, California, the most beautiful place on earth.
Monterey, California. I don't even know. That's where is it in terms of San Francisco?
2 hours by car south of San Francisco.
And how long you been there?
30 years.
Listen, so a big hotshot conservative right-wing crazy man, and you're living in the belly of the beast.
Yeah, I guess so. It's frightening. What's happening out here is pretty frightening.
But it's gorgeous.
Oh, it's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, where I live is a bubble.
What do you mean by that?
San Francisco has been ruined. It's a mess up there. But where I live, Monterey Peninsula is still beautiful, pristine, wonderful. The people are friendly. It's easy to live here. It's physically beautiful. It's paradise on earth. And I just hope they don't screw it up with all this crazy left-wing woke nonsense.
So how's your governor? You're a fan of the governor over there?
Am I a friend of the governor?
Fan.
A fan?
Yes.
No, I'm the opposite of a fan. I think our governor is a disaster. He's responsible for San Francisco being a mess. He was the mayor there. He screwed it up. Now he screwed up the state. Now he wants to screw up the whole country. I think they should lock this guy up and throw him to the king. So no, I'm not a fan of
This is great. So your wife, girlfriend, she's simpatico with you with all the
girlfriend. Did you say white girlfriend?
wife, girlfriend.
My wife girlfriend.
Yes.
Is she simpatico? Yeah, she is.
Yes. And so
Terrible if she wasn't, but yeah.
yeah. Well, so what do you do if you had to? I'm asking you for some more wisdom. So you had to give recommendations to a young couple getting married. My daughter's just got engaged, and what do you think is? Do you think that? Actually, I'll do this one. Religion. If what's more important, being of the same political, equal in their political beliefs or in their religious beliefs?
Well, it depends on what's important to them. If someone's life is defined by their religion, then that's what's important. Most people today are not that religious. People I know are not that religious, but they do have strong political beliefs. So in my case, it would be very difficult for me to be with a woman who was a liberal. I have a friend. He's a conservative. His wife is a liberal, and they fight like crazy. It's I feel sorry for the guy.
Well, let me ask you, because I have friends of all stripes. In every kind of different aspect of life. Do you have many leftist friends? And because I consider myself a liberal, I'm a classical liberal. But basically do whatever the hell you want and don't bother me, and we're in good shape. What do you have many people on the left who are friends?
I used to have, and I'm glad you asked that, because I have had like 4 or 5 people who I thought were good friends of mine blow me off completely, tell me they don't ever want to hear from me again because of my political views. And I think that is really sick. For example, I came out, I criticized Black Lives Matter, which I think is a criminal organization. A woman I know in New York who I thought was a friend, she writes to me, Ed, I thought this is not the Ed Brodow I used to love. I thought you were a kind, loving person. See, I'm a racist now because I don't like Black Lives Matter. This is disturbed. But I have one of my friends who a very close friend who I've known for 35 years, know him and his wife and his kid, and he blew me off altogether. He don't want to hear from me anymore. I mean, at first I was offended by it, and then I realized that these people were never really my friends to begin with. Because there's no reason why you can't be friends with somebody who has different political views and say, okay, you feel this way, I feel that way. We can still be friends.
Yes.
But these people, no, they just don't want to have anything to do with me anymore. And good riddance. I don't miss them.
Do you think that goes both ways? Like I've heard that there are people on the left who have cut people on the right out of their lives. I haven't heard so much that people on the right have cut people on the left out of their lives.
It is my belief, my observation, that people on the right don't behave like that. The people on the right are much more civil and much more sensible. And most of this stuff is coming from the left, not from the right.
But people on the left are generally much better looking. So we got that.
I beg your pardon?
People on the left are generally much better looking. I mean,
racist to me, right there.
Yeah, that's right. That's how it. Guy, good afternoon, Dan. Your guest is correct. I had a job interview for a big logistics company and was told by the hiring manager, I'm really trying to hire someone who looks more like me.
Yeah.
Maybe you should wear a mirror on your face.
Well, he says, I've also been told I'm too old. That's age discrimination.
Yeah.
And when they said, I want to hire somebody who looks like me, I'm surprised they admitted that, because that's a racist concept. If you're a white person and you said to a black person applying for a job, I want to hire somebody who looks like me, they could sue you. That's against the law. But it's okay to do it if you're white. There's the war on white right there.
And that's where and that's where it goes. So you're do you go on book tours and things like that these days?
I used to do book tours, but frankly, they don't do much good. So I don't do a lot of book tours.
So what TV shows have you been on?
Well, I've been on. I'm a big fan, a big hit in the UK.
Are you
on the Mark Dolan show on GB News? They've had me on about 5 times.
Really?
I'm a political commentator from the U.S.
Get out of town!
Yeah.
How'd you get that gig?
I don't know. I'm just lucky, I guess.
Is this your guy?
There he is. How'd you find that?
We have world-class production capabilities here in Dan Jordan Live. This isn't just your run-of-the-mill show here. So you are one of their political commentaries.
Now, this guy, Mark Dolan, is like the Tucker Carlson of the UK.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think he knows me?
I'll ask him next time I talk.
Well, I have again, when I say old, I said old school before. I didn't mean to offend you, but old school that I even have a Franklin planner that I write my day goals and what I need to do and all that stuff. And I have these 5 values that I live by. Each one different strengths in various days. It's gratefulness, forgiveness, accountability, courage, and kindness. And today I wrote down the one that I said I need most, or I need to practice most, is courage. And you, for whatever reason, exemplify just a man of conviction and courage. And I really appreciate your wisdom. I think you're a breath of fresh air.
You want to hear a courageous story?
I do.
World. I was working for a company. There were 8 of us in sales in this one division, and we were transferred to another division and called in to meet our new boss. So we go into the new boss's office, and the first thing he said to us was, "I fired 125 people last year, and I'm proud of it." Now, this is a true story. He fired 125 people. He's proud of it. Now, the other seven men were terrified. They all had families. They were afraid to lose their job. I looked at this man and I just started to laugh. And I said, "That's the most insane thing I ever heard in my entire life." I said, "You must be out of your mind. You fired these people and you're proud of it? What are you, nuts?" He promoted me. He promoted me.
Now, did he tell you why?
What?
Why did he promote you?
Yeah, he said, "I can see you're the leader in the group." Right? I'll never forget. That's exactly what he said. "Brodow, I can see you're the leader in the group." And about a month later, he promoted me to be in charge of the other guys. And
so So that's a negotiation tactic. Be ready to lose it all.
Oh, absolutely. Always be willing to walk away. That's one of my big things when I talk about negotiation is always be willing to walk away.
Yes, and so you get, and so this you were willing to risk it, but you were promoted. So he says, "I can tell you're the leader." So in fact, that's what he wants. I mean, that's to so
That's
a
what everybody
sign.
wants. Everybody wants a leader. Everybody respects a leader. People respect you when you stand up for yourself. See, people think, oh, if I stand up for myself, I'm going to be fired. I'll be crucified. No, and for the most part, people respect that.
Yeah. So
I can tell you some more stories of crazy
please,
things I did.
that's what we're here for, is stories.
Well, oh, listen,
What are you putzing around for?
I was kind of making the transition from sales manager to movie actor, and I wanted to get fired from my job so I could collect unemployment. You know, all actors are on unemployment, so I tried to convince my employer to fire me, and the way I did it was just by being obnoxious. I would insult people. I would walk out of meetings. I insulted the president of the company, and instead of firing me, they gave me a raise and a promotion. And then they sold the company to another company. There were 1,500 people in the marketing department. They fired everybody but 6. They kept 6 people, and I was one of the 6. And all I wanted to do was get fired. But they must have said, "Boy, this guy Brodow, we got to keep him because he really knows where it's at."
I mean, that's the greatest lesson. It pays to be disagreeable. You don't want.
No, it doesn't pay to be disagreeable.
Okay, correct me.
Stick up for yourself. It pays to be assertive. It pays to be honest, not disagreeable. My objective is not to be disagreeable with people. My objective is to say, "Hey, this is what I think is the truth."
And that's right. And that's a great sales lesson to leave with people. If you're out there and you're, in the sales world, it's a war every day. You're trying to sell yourself and your services to the marketplace. They're buying you before they buy anything else. And they want a leader. They want someone who's respects themselves and is assertive. That's great.
This is a sales show. So let me give your listeners my best piece of sales advice.
Please.
And that is when you say they're buying you, what they're buying is your ability to solve their problems. They don't really care about you or your company or your product or service. All they care about is solving whatever problem they're faced with. So what I tell salespeople is the best thing you can do is keep your mouth shut and listen. Listen. Let them tell you. They will tell you what they need, why they will buy from you if you keep your mouth shut and give them the opportunity. So listening is the most important skill of salespeople. When I went into sales, they didn't teach me that. I had to learn that the hard way in New York. Now, my first sales job, I was going around New York making cold calls in New York on Canal Street, going from door to door, office buildings and factories, and making, going in and saying, "Hi, people would say, 'Get the hell out of here.' We don't." I did that for 2 years. That was the greatest sales training you can imagine. But I learned that people will pay attention to you if you pay attention to them. So I learned to keep my mouth shut and listen to them.
I'm kind of scared to open my mouth now, but that is absolutely right. I started on my first customer. I was selling restaurant supplies in Manhattan. Was in it was a place called Honeysuckle Restaurant. It was on 7th Ave up in the Bronx. It was again, same thing. I walked past the place 4 times before I finally had the courage to walk in. And so, great lesson. All right. Well, listen, Ed Brodow, I can't tell you how pleased I am to have you. Have any final words? You're about to say something, I see.
No, I just guessed.
Okay. I appreciate you coming on and being so honest and helping everybody in negotiation and to pick up that book. One last thing, where can they find that book?
The book is available at Amazon. Amazon.com, The War on Whites.
Okay.
Buy it,
That's there
read
for
it, live it.
I really appreciate you coming on today and sharing all this stuff. And we got to stay in touch. Everybody get on his email program. He sends you email every week. He's an excellent writer, and you'll be a better person for it. Stick around after the show here just for a minute so we can talk. And you guys out there, you're the best. I'm the Deej. Let's go get them today.